There's so much tension in this episode. It's crazy. When you wondering when she's going to drink the bottle that the tick pissed out its babies into. There's just so much tension in every scene from that point on. Hell yeah, baby, we're going back to space. This is going to be a good one. Even though it was only an hour, it felt more like a movie than the other episodes did. So that was pretty cool. Very self-contained, you know. It was great. I liked this one a lot. I love that we're getting to empathize with Morrow, and like, you know, we're seeing a lot of the same events that we did in the first episode, but we get this different flavor to it that helps us to empathize and understand where he's coming from, and just hearing his backstory, hearing about his daughter, all these things, and why he's so committed to the company just gives a lot of context that kind of, you know, he seemed very much like the villain in the first 4 episodes. But now it's a little different. It was pretty funny. You know, we get chlamydia, as Morrow calls him, kind of getting Morrow back up to date since he's been down in cryo. And he's like telling him about all the crazy shit that's been happening. And then he talks about like Zaverny and Bronsky and how they bang and how he was watching it. Like there's a lot of voyeurism in Alien in general, but especially in this episode. And then even when you considered last week, like it was called observation, just a lot of people watching people. But yeah, it's just hilarious to hear him break down all these things that have been happening and the things he chooses to share. Like we have 2 people with parasites on their faces, and he's still choosing to talk about, you know, these 2 crew members that are banging and how they bang. And it's ridiculous. And this is where we get that first hint that there's something fishy, you know, going on with Tang. Like we get to the point where we find out like it was really just a red herring. They wanted us to think, at first I thought maybe he was an android, synthetic, but obviously that's not the case. And like they just kind of make him seem suspicious. They make him seem like he's the threat. Like, you know, at first that he's just kind of creepy. You know, they talk about him doing his filth while he watches that one crew member. And he seems like he's this villain to Morrow and to the company, the saboteur, but he's not the saboteur. But yeah, they're really just throwing a red herring in there to make him seem like the threat when he's really just a creep. That's about it. Yeah, but I was like, oh shit, it's him. It has to be him, right? That must be what they're talking about here, or what they're hinting at. But of course, you know, it wasn't. When they said it was Petrovich, I wasn't really familiar with that character. I think they showed him in the first episode, but it's been so long since that happened that I forgot who the character was. So I feel like that didn't hit as hard, kind of as I hoped it would. It would have been nice if, you know, it was a big oh shit moment that like, oh my God, it's Petrovich. Of course it was him. But, you know, whatever, it did its job. It was really cool to hear a Fallout song in Alien. At least that's where it's familiar to me from. Yeah, they used it in the show, I think. I think it's from Fallout 3 originally. But yeah, I heard the first 2 bars or so. The dun 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 dun. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I love that song. But yeah, it's so sad just to hear about, you know, Morrow's listening to this song and we learn about, he gets this very cold, you know, letter from the company that, oh yeah, your daughter's dead. Very matter of fact. We put all of her shit, you know, in a locker basically for you when you get back in 65 years. So yeah, that was pretty sad to learn about. Just again, adding that context, adding that flavor, helping us to empathize with him. And it does make a lot of sense. Like he has nothing left. You know, his daughter's all he had. He has this wild commitment to the company. You know, he talks about how they brought him in or how Utani specifically brought him in, and how he had like a gimp arm that explains the cyborg arm he gets, right? And I wonder if they brought him in because, you know, he was the first to get one of these cyborg arms. He was, you know, similar to Prodigy, where they go and they get these kids that are going to die anyway, so they can kind of, you know, get what they need out of them. So I wonder if it's a similar situation with Utani and Morrow. But yeah, you can understand the commitment he has to the company, especially when the only thing he had kind of outside of the company, his only family, his daughter, is dead. When he gets back, all he cares about is kind of righting this situation that went a little crazy. He'd go and pursue that Xeno at all costs. And then we have that shot of the fire in the foreground in that flashback. It comes up a few times. And one of the times, you know, it has them walking on the beach in the background while you have the fire in the foreground. But then you get a shot of it later where it's just the fire in the foreground and they kind of fade out. The memory of them, I suppose, fades out in the background. And all that's left is that fire in the foreground. And I assume it's just him thinking about, you know, that's the thing that killed her. Pretty sad, but that's all that's left of that memory, essentially. I'm curious how you interpreted that, but that was kind of my take. Let me know what you thought too. And dude, that fucking octopus alien, I think they named it in this episode, but I can't remember what the name was. What the fuck? That thing is so smart. It's crazy, which makes it way scarier. You know, if it was just kind of a dumb, I'm going to kill hunt things creature, it wouldn't be as scary. But the fact that it's so fucking intelligent is crazy. Makes it so terrifying. Even the way it would like slingshot itself, you know, the thing didn't lock. She wasn't paying attention. You had those that whole tick scene. There's so much tension in this episode. It's crazy. When you wondering when she's going to drink the bottle that the tick pissed out its babies into, the tadpoles. There's just so much tension in every scene from that point on. It's just like this ticking time bomb under the table. You're waiting for it to go off. The tension's freaking palpable. It was crazy. But those were some nasty tadpoles. I used to like go collect, you know, go fishing for tadpoles as a kid with my dad. And that memory is soiled. Similar to the fire in Morrow's memory of his daughter, I can no longer look at tadpoles the same way. And then I remember just thinking, oh, fuck, the kid's screwed. You think it's going to be, I forget her name, but the science officer, you think it's going to be her that's going to drink the bottle, obviously. And then, you know, the kid starts, you know, he's being a little shit. He's really stupid, too. You know, he's like coughing on his food or whatever. And then he goes and takes that swig and you're just like, oh, no. He did. Yeah, pretty nasty way to go. But yeah, then we find out, obviously, Petrovich is the saboteur. Like I was saying earlier, it didn't hit that hard for me because it's like a character I kind of forgot about. I'm curious if it hit for you because, yeah, kind of just went in and out. It's like, oh, okay. You know, just a fact that I learned rather than this emotional hit that like, oh, this character that I didn't think it would be. Oh, my God, it's them. Or, you know, or a character I cared about or liked or whatever. It just ended up being some guy on the ship. But it was really interesting when we find out Morrow does some digging. He gets that tip from Tang. Tip from Tang that, you know, while he's going and doing his filth over that one chick in her cryo tube, he was able to explain like, oh yeah, you can totally spoof the keypad or whatever on the cryopods and you can, no one would know that you came out and went back in. So yeah, that kind of gives him that clue that he needs to go looking through the logs, and he recovers the video files. You get a few funny ones first, learn a little bit more about the characters, but then when you find out that Petrovich has been talking to Boy Cavalier, that really adds some more context to the whole him wanting to go get the aliens. He made it seem like it was just this great opportunity that happened to show up where the ship crashed on his part of the planet. But obviously there was more to it than that. I'm curious how he knew that the ship was carrying xenomorphs or a bunch of different aliens. Maybe we'll find out more about that in the next episode or something. But yeah, that was pretty crazy to find out he's involved in all this. Like he's basically the reason that the ship went down and all these people died and all this corporate sabotage. Not a future. None of this is a future I want to live in. And then we get this, there wasn't a lot of like crazy transitions or anything in this one like we got in some of the past episodes, especially Observation. Last week's episode was really good. Just the way it was edited and a lot of these effects with masks and cross dissolves and stuff they used on some of those scenes, like especially when Slightly, I think is his name, and Morrow, when they're having their conversations through the thing in Slightly's neck, they had some great transitions there. But here we get that kind of nasty, the octopus crawling after it gets out of the lab. It like crawls over the lens of the camera, you know, it kind of just comes like this. And you see the slime go across the camera. And then we get this crazy, finale where like they're all on the octopus is in, I forget his name, Seamus or something, in his eye, and he's on the bridge, and you get Zvari back there, and they're like, they kind of they duke it out a little bit. And then when the octopus like calls the xenomorph, I don't know if it's like, specific, like if it was just getting its attention, making any noise, because it's obviously pretty smart, so it knew to call it. It was kind of in a sticky situation and knew to call the xenomorph back in to get out of that situation. But I wonder if they're like, are they from the same planet? I don't know. I know we've kind of peeled back the alien lore and where they came from, and the prequel stuff's kind of out the window for the show. But I'm curious if they come from the same planet or not. If they have some sort of history together, if one's a predator and a prey to the other kind of thing. But yeah, it calls it back in. And then it's just like, you got this idea that they were, at least I did, that they were like enemies of some kind. But who knows? Maybe it just was smart enough to know if it called the Xeno back in, it could get out of that situation. But yeah, we get this kind of great finale. We get more context to that final scene in some of the earlier episodes where Morrow's, sealing the door and the Xeno's right outside, and he's, in there talking to Mother. So yeah, it was nice to get some more context there. But yeah, it was a good kind of final classic alien blowout. This show really it was structured so much like a movie. But then when we get back to Earth and Morrow's talking to the younger Yutani when they're back home, and then you get like, they're like samurai, her bodyguards in the Wayland Yutani Tower. That was sick. That was so cool. They looked so cool. I love the kind of, obviously Yutani, Japanese name, Japanese company. I think a lot of, if I understand it correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of like Wayland is only part of the name, after he died in the prequels and stuff. They kind of just keep the name for what it means, the name brand recognition or whatever. But I love all the Japanese influence. Yeah, you even have like a cherry blossom in there and stuff. Just really cool production design on this show. A lot of really cool shit in here. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's about it for this week. It was a great episode, kind of a self-contained thing, with a little bit of tie-in there at the end. But yeah, I liked it a lot. This was pretty cool. Let me know what you think, because I'm sure you guys probably liked it too, but if you didn't, tell me about it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I know your time is valuable, so I appreciate you spending it with me, and I will see you guys for next week's episode. Thanks. Bye.